but they start introducing new and outrageous demands. At a certain point, they say, oh, and by the way, before we'll consider talking to those illegitimate puppets that you've installed in Kabul, you got to release 5,000 of our prisoners.
د طالبانو ډله پوهیږي چې نږدې 11,000 کسانې چې په بېلابېلو جرایمو او جنایتونو کې لاس درلود او بالفعل د جرم ترسره کولو په جریان کې نیول شوي دي.
President Ghani rejected any massive prisoner release out of hand.
President Ghani's reaction was that the prisoners is not something the Americans can give. These are prisoners in Afghan prisons, not in American prisons. And the Afghan government should be using this as its own leverage in negotiations with the Taliban. And so the Americans did not have the right to negotiate this on our behalf.
Despite Ghani's objections, the U.S. pushed ahead.
We are back now with an historic agreement between the United States and the Taliban that could bring peace to the region and ends America's longest fought war.
On February 29, 2020, at a grand ceremony in Doha, the U.S. and Taliban signed a deal.
This was one of the strangest scenes you could imagine. American diplomats in business suits and badges sitting down with the Taliban, an Islamic fundamentalist group which hosted Osama bin Laden before 9/11. But that is what diplomacy looks like.
The U.S. agreed to a full withdrawal by May of 2021, and the Taliban pledged to no longer harbor any foreign terrorist groups. But they would not agree to denounce al-Qaeda.
The Taliban refused to repudiate al-Qaeda, to condemn Osama bin Laden.
As it is mentioned in the Doha Agreement, we will not allow any party, any individual to use the side of Afghanistan against other country. That is our criteria. So anyone, any party kills civilians, we are condemning.
The U.S. also agreed that Ghani would release 5,000 prisoners within 2 weeks.
The terms of the agreement was way more favorable to Taliban. There is no question.
So who's accountable for that agreement, handing so much power to the Taliban?
I raised that with Ambassador Khalilzad directly myself, but he kept insisting all along that the negotiations had 4 elements, and nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. And this was the mantra that was being sung all along. But then, at the end, that did not materialize.
The agreement was supposed to lead to a ceasefire that was described as comprehensive. But while the U.S. and Taliban agreed not to attack each other, the Taliban did not agree to a ceasefire with Afghan forces. They're getting a pretty good deal here. They're not having to put down their weapons. The United States is agreeing not to go to war against them.
Right.
We're agreeing to release their prisoners.
Right.
Ghani remained adamantly opposed to the terms of the deal.
هیچ نوع تعهد برای رهایی 50,000 بندی وجود نداره. ما بار این موضوع را به صورت شفاف با دکتر سب خلیلزاد و تمام
Negotiations for a prisoner release continued, and so did the war, largely on Taliban terms.
Violence in Afghanistan just days after that landmark truce.
During this time when we were negotiating prisoner release, the Taliban were targeting